Give you my heart.
Good morning, you guys. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I would like to say welcome. So it's pretty early. I have a pretty early start to my day. I'm about to make some breakfast and make some coffee because our girl's gotta get her coffee in early in the morning. And I'm super excited because I was going through my laundry and I dug in my scrub pocket and I found these little goodies that some donors at my job gave me. This first one is a half off basic combo card for like one of those Herbalife like smoothie bar places. I'm really excited for this because I really want to go to one and I've been to one before, but they're like $8. So this is only $4. So I definitely will be going to redeem this. And then one of my favorite girls gave me this little Color Street sample kit. I've never used Color Street. As you guys can see, I always paint my own nails. So I'm excited about this. Okay, so now we're in the car and I was like thinking to myself, like, how am I gonna film this video? How do I wanna film it? Do I wanna be like sitting down when they're all napping? Like, how do I wanna do this video? And then it occurred to me that as a mom, and a busy mom at that, I'm probably not gonna have time later on to even film this video. So if you guys watched the first two clips, you were like, oh yeah, she's gonna give us this great sit down video. No, I mean, I'm gonna be sitting, but it's gonna be another car vlog style type video because I'm like, I might as well just do the story while I'm on my way out to Mishawaka because it's going to take me a little while to get out there, and it's probably the only time that I'm going to be able to like sit and talk to you guys. And yeah, I'm driving, but it is what it is. You know, I want to keep posting videos every like week or every couple days. So in order to do that, I have to fit vlogging and filming into my lifestyle. This is my life. I have to go to the grocery store and I have to get it done before my oldest gets home because I absolutely hate taking all three of them to the store. Like, it's just way too hard. But I like this lighting a little bit better because now you can see my hair. As you guys know, I've been natural in like my last couple videos. I was giving my hair a break from wigs because if you wear wigs too much, your hair doesn't breathe, and then it also can like tug on your edges depending on if you wear a wig with just like straps or if you wear a wig with clips. Mine has clips here and a clip in the very back at the nape of my neck, and I noticed my hair was starting to thin in the front and a small amount in the back, and I figured, you know, it was from wearing wigs too much. So I haven't worn a wig for a couple weeks now, just kind of letting my hair breathe, and honestly it's been so good. My hair has felt so soft and it's growing a lot. I'm wearing one today, but after today I think I'm gonna give it another couple weeks of a break until I find a different way to wear my hair that I just absolutely love and want to wear all the time, or until I find a really nice wig that doesn't put so much strain on my edges. Then I'll probably just, you know, do what I'm doing because I really do like being natural, but I also like wigs too because just look at this bounce and this fullness. Like my hair, I don't know if my hair will ever look like this, like being straightened and then curled. Like I don't think my hair will ever have this shape, and I just love this. Like this is just so pretty to me, so I threw it on today. So yeah. But since we are about 15 minutes away from the store, I'm gonna get right into today's video. So my birth with my oldest, man, crazy. Okay, so I had a pretty, like a relatively easy pregnancy with Nathan. I did a lot of walking because I was around 6 to 7 months in the summertime, so I was fairly far along, and I did a lot of walking, and I was just really on top of like eating healthy, drinking water, all that. I was doing like all of like the things that I was reading up on, like, you know, just making sure I was eating enough, because early on in my pregnancy, I started working at Super Target and I hadn't eaten that day and I got so dizzy for a second. And I was like, oh God, like you have to eat when you're pregnant. So that kind of like was like a tap on the head. And after that, I was like more conscious of like what I was putting in my body and like staying up on my hydration. My kids are not having it. But yeah, staying up on my hydration and just being more mindful of things, because I'm like, you know, babies need the best possible nutrients to grow. So I was just really, really mindful of what I was putting in my body. Also with that, towards the end, I did start to get a little uncomfortable. I had some like round ligament pain, like in and around like the bottom of my stomach, like on the sides, especially my right side. I remember that pretty vividly because I always had to sleep on my left, which they recommended because I had heartburn too at times, and they said it was better to sleep on your left side versus your right because it helps, like, you know, keep everything down. So that was a problem towards the end, but it was a very minor problem, and I just slept on my left side. It took care of the heartburn and the round ligament pain, so that was nice. And I noticed with him, they changed my date or my due date a few times. It was supposed to be December 24th originally, like Christmas Eve, which I thought was so cool. Then it changed to December 28th. Then it was December 29th. Then it was back to December 28th. And I could tell they weren't really sure when my son was supposed to be born, which was a little, I don't want to say concerning for me, but I'm like, okay, like, what are you people doing here? So I didn't know when he was going to come, but they were going based off of the 28th because it was in between the two other dates. So they just kind of stuck with the 28th towards like the very, very end. And I ended up having him January 4th. They actually scheduled me to be induced the following Tuesday, January the 6th, if he didn't come. And so I was freaking out. I'm like, I do not want to be induced. Like, they were explaining it to me, and they said something about like this seaweed thing, and it just sounded really weird, really gross, really uncomfortable. And I was like, this is not how I want to experience my first birth. Like, not at all. I had put in my birth plan that I just wanted to have him, like, you know, in the birth room, like in the bed. That's how I wanted it to be done. And they actually had me in the bed when I was going through my contractions. And then I just got really uncomfortable. Like, they were really starting to hit me hard. And so they're like, oh, would you like to sit in the tub and we can turn the jets on and maybe that will like ease the pain of labor? I was like, yeah, you know, that sounds great. Because by the time I got to the hospital with him, it was like 9:30 at night. I was already 7, almost 8 centimeters dilated. And so getting an epidural was pretty much out of the question because they stopped offering the epidural once you reach 8 centimeters because you're so close. And my mom, you know, she made me labor all day at home. I was sitting on the ball. I was just so, like, I was so uncomfortable. But my mom was like, wait till your contractions are closer. She's like, you don't want to go to the hospital and then they tell you to go home and wait. Because we had actually went to the hospital earlier that morning, like 8 a.m. or something. And I was having contractions. They were like seeing them on the monitor, but they were saying that they weren't very severe and they sent me home. So around 12, I was sent home. They kept me there just to monitor me. And so then I ended up laboring from 12 that day, well, pretty much 8 a.m., if you really want to call it that, 8 a.m., all the way up until 9 p.m. So that's like, what, 12 and a half, 13 hours of laboring that I did before I actually felt like I was close enough, you know, to go to the hospital. And so I'm in the hospital, I'm in the birth room, and they put me in the tub and turn the jets on. Oh my gosh, guys, amazing. I loved it. It was really helping. Every time I felt a surge, like a wave of contractions hit me, the jets kind of eased, because I was having a little bit of back labor too. I felt it like in my lower back, and it kind of like radiated around to my front, if that makes sense. And oh my gosh, it was so bad. My legs were shaking. I'm like, this is pretty painful. And I had no epidural, so I was feeling everything, like full on feeling these contractions, and it was intense. It got to a point where the contractions, like, it literally only took like 30 minutes. And it got to the point where the contractions were now radiating from like my lower back all the way around down into like my pelvic area. And I was like, oh God, I think it might be time to push. Like, it's an instinct. They told me, you know, you'll know when it's time to push. And I've heard girls say, I didn't really know, I wasn't sure. Other girls said, oh, I knew when it was time to push. And something clicked in my mind. I'm like, Elena, it is time to have this baby. And so I looked at my son's dad, because I was gripping his hand when I was going through the contractions in the tub. And I looked at my son's dad, and I was like, this is it. Like, he's gonna be here in a minute. And so the ladies, you know, everyone started rushing back in the room. My midwife came in the room, because I had a midwife, and I'll get into that. My midwife came in the room. The nurse's assistant, I think her name was Priscilla, she came in the room. Everybody was rushing in. My mom, my grandma, neither one of my sisters were there, because at the time it was flu season, and so they weren't letting anyone under the age of 17 come in, so that kind of sucked. But everyone else was there. They're all in the room. They're getting their phones out. They're ready to like record, and the nurse's assistant was trying to help me out of the tub. She's like, no, everyone go back in the room. We're gonna bring her in there to have the baby. And so everyone's like going, they're like turning around, going back into the actual birthing room. And that's when something really bizarre happened, and I don't even know what compelled me to do this, but I looked at them, I looked at my midwife, I looked at like the nurse or nursing assistant, and I was like, no, I don't want to get out. This feels really comfortable for me. And they were like, okay. I was like, I can stay in the tub. They were like, yeah, you can have him in the tub. I knew about water births. I hadn't heard really very much about water births. And I also hadn't known anyone that had had a water birth, at least like family friend wise. No one I knew personally had had a water birth. And so something clicked in me. I'm like, I'm having this baby in the water. And so they start getting everything set up. They get the hose to the bathtub ready, and they have my son's dad hold it over my belly to kind of ease the pain a little bit, which actually it really did help. And they kind of got my legs propped up. I was sitting in the corner of the bathtub, and they told me, you know, next time you feel a contraction and you next time you feel that surge down there, push. And they said push like hard, like I'm trying to figure out like how they described it to me, like with your bottom. I think that's what they said. I don't remember, because I had a C-section with the twins, so it's not like I had to do any pushing. But I'm pretty sure they said like push, like not like you're pooping. It's a different kind of pushing. I don't even know. Like, our bodies are amazing, okay? Our bodies just know what to do. And so it only took about 20 seconds, and then I was feeling another contraction, and I kind of like, I don't know what I did, but like I just pushed down really hard, and oh God, it was so painful with the contraction and then pushing through the pain of that contraction. Oh my gosh. And I felt just a slight burn, and I'm like, oh God, oh my God, oh my God, I tore. I've heard about people tearing and having to get stitches, and I'm like, I felt the burn right away. I'm like, oh my God, I tore. And that's what they talk about, that ring of fire. That's when the head is like coming through, and whoo, that was no joke, you guys. So I felt that like ring of fire, and whew, it was intense. I only had to push like 2 or 3 times though, because then I pushed again, and that ring of fire eased up a little bit, because that was once his head was through, and then his shoulders had already come through, and at that point that's like the biggest part, head and shoulders. Then everything else kind of like slips out, I guess. So head and shoulders came out, that ring of fire, that pain, that burning, it kind of went away, and I just took like another push, I think, because it was like 2 or 3, another push, and he just slipped out. And the nurse caught him, and there he was in the water for just a second, and then she raised him up and put him on my chest. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. She put him on my chest, and I'm just like, look at this little baby. He's so beautiful. And he was so peaceful at first. He kind of just looked up at me, and I'm like, oh my God, he's looking right at me. And then I think he realized, you know, I'm not in my warm little space anymore. I'm in this cold foreign world. And then he let out this loud scream, and everyone was just crying, and oh, it was so beautiful. I love my water birth experience, and anytime anyone talks about having a water birth, I am so quick to tell them my story because it was just so beautiful. And a part of me wishes that I had like pictures taken of it, but a part of me, you know, at the time I was younger and I wasn't as comfortable with my body as I am now. Even though my body is so much more different after having kids, it's actually made me appreciate it more. And so I don't think I would have been comfortable doing that, exposing my body like that. But definitely, if I ever have a child again, if we're not going to get into that, and I had the option to have a water birth, I definitely would put that in my birth plan. And for anyone that's thinking about having a water birth, it's just such a beautiful experience. And yeah, so that is my birth story with my oldest. So my pregnancy with the twins was obviously a little different. I did not throw up a lot, but I was nauseous pretty much 24/7 for the first couple months. I got these Preggy Pops that my grandma ordered for me, and those seemed to work really well. I tried a couple different things, and they all seemed to work well, but the nausea just always came back. So that was kind of annoying. I did have a little bit of heartburn with them, but not as much as I had with my oldest. I had it really bad, especially towards the end. So I didn't have like crazy heartburn, but I was just always nauseous, and I was always tired too, because obviously with twins, you know, your body's working a little bit harder for them. One thing I did not do with them as well as I did with my first, though, I didn't eat as well. I think I just thought about, oh, I'm having twins, so I have to eat more, and so I was just eating like a lot of junk and not being really conscious of what I was eating. And I think that played into a part, like after I had them, you know, my body, I had put on so much weight, and it was very different, and it's now very hard for me to lose weight. And I think that's because I didn't do all of the right things when I was pregnant with them. But I originally wanted to have a vaginal birth. I thought, you know, I really didn't want to have a C-section. I was just terrified of being cut open. I've watched videos of C-sections, and I'm like, oh my God, they literally take a scalpel and they slice all the layers of your stomach open, pull it open, and pull the baby out by its head. Like, that's terrifying to me. And so I was like, I really want to try a vaginal birth. I explained this to my high-risk OB and the nurse practitioner I was seeing at my doctor's office. And they all said, well, it's possible depending on the baby's position. So baby A, which is Elijah, he was born first. He was actually not in the position to be born naturally. So of course I was kind of bummed. And they said, you know, they told me at 33 weeks that he was like butt first or foot first, because he was kind of like sitting like this, hunched over. And so they said, you know, he could flip towards the end, but that at that time they were going to schedule me for a C-section for 37 weeks. So they went ahead and scheduled it just in case he didn't flip. But they said, of course, you know, if he is in the right position, then you can have a vaginal birth. As for baby B, his brother Ezra was transverse, so he was literally laying sideways on top of Elijah's head. So he was sideways, like up in my ribs. So that's why my stomach, for anyone, obviously you guys never saw me like heavily pregnant or anything with them, but the top of my stomach almost seemed to stick out more than the bottom half, and that's because Ezra was a bigger baby and he was laying sideways. and he's the one yelling for me right now. But yeah, and so we got closer to 37 weeks, and Elijah still hadn't flipped. So I was like, okay, we're just gonna have a C-section. The day came. I'm pretty sure it was a Thursday, and it was scheduled for 11:30. I have my now husband obviously is not the same guy that I had Nathan with. So at the time he was my boyfriend, and I had my boyfriend drive me to the hospital. I texted everyone, made a Facebook post. I said, hey, twins will be here soon. Everyone was so excited. I was nervous though. I had done a lot of research on C-sections, and I was just freaking out. I'm like, this is not at all like my first birth, and I was kind of disappointed. But with twins, it's different. You know, there are risks. It can be very dangerous for the mom and for the babies. So it was a whole new thing for me. But we got to the hospital. I got prepped. I was like shaking because I was just so freaking nervous. And my mom and his mom were in the room with us when I was getting prepped, and they were putting me on the monitor to check the babies and make sure everything was good. They gave me a hug. They each gave me a hug and a kiss on the cheek. They're like, oh, we love you. We're so proud of you. They started prepping my boyfriend in like the little blue outfit and the little bonnet. They gave me a bonnet. I ended up talking to the surgeon briefly before the surgery. He kind of gave me the rundown on like, you know, this is what's happening. This is how it's going to be done. You know, if you have any questions, let us know. But yeah, so we both were prepped. After I talked to the surgeon, they took me back to the room, and I received the epidural, which I was also nervous about that because I didn't have one with my first. And mine worked really well. Like, they did the epidural, and they said, you're gonna start feeling numb, so we're gonna lay you back. Instantly, like, my whole body went numb, and so they had to help me, like, swing my legs up on this shiny silver table. The whole room was bright white lights. It was kind of freaky, honestly. But yeah, and it took a couple minutes for them to get my boyfriend back there. He was a little upset because they were about to start and he still wasn't back there yet because they forgot to go get him, and I was kind of irritated about that too, honestly. My kids are so cranky, they want to go in, so I'm gonna make this quick. But he ended up coming to the room finally. They were just about to start cutting when he walked in, so that was a sight. But he came in and they started cutting. I didn't feel a thing. My boyfriend, he's my husband now, he was watching so intently. Like, he seemed really intrigued by the whole thing. I couldn't see because they had a blue sheet up around me. But instantly they were like, baby A's out. And it only took like not even a whole minute. And then I heard a little cry, and like 30 seconds later, baby B is out, and I heard another cry, and I'm like, oh my God, they came out so fast. Like, they were only 37 seconds apart, is what I was told. And I'm just like, what? So, yeah. And my boyfriend got to hold them first, then I held them afterwards. And that's like it. It's a really short, sweet story, and I had, you know, an interesting time, I guess I would say. I don't know, I didn't feel anything. Like, I definitely was emotional afterwards because it was just such an emotional thing, and it was so different for me, and different for my family too. You know, I was the only one out of like my mom's side that had twins recently, and I'm gonna keep doing that. My then boyfriend's side, it had been a while since anyone had twins, so it was just crazy. But my kids are super fussy, and I'm gonna have to go, so I'm sorry if I rushed the end of this video, but I hope you guys enjoyed my birth story. Be on the lookout for more videos. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.